Hello everybody, this is Mithril Zenith, and this is a Days of Ruin CO tier list. Now, just so you know, I never had the chance to play much Days of Ruin multiplayer growing up, so a lot of this is just based on my experience playing through all the bonus maps, S ranking, as well as all of the research I've done for this, trying to understand all the different CO mechanics specifically has made it very interesting to actually create this, and a lot of different people's opinions on what's good, what's bad, what not, kind of what the meta is. If any of you knows a way to play Advance Wars multiplayer currently, I would love to, because I think it's a great game and I would love to experience that. But anyway, here we go. Before we get started, just a quick note on CO differences between Advance Wars Days of Ruin and other Advance Wars games. Instead of being a global power or a global effect, COs only affect units when they're put into a unit. It costs half the base price of the unit to do. Unit instantly gets veteran status. And then all units in the CO zone get a small boost to attack and defense, in addition to whatever boosts the particular COs give. So, with that said, let's get into it. There's a lot of other changes with Days of Ruin. One of the more notable is that the infantry cost 1500 instead of 1000, which means you can't as easily spam them out of a factory. I don't really know the full meta, but I know that just that change, as well as a couple of the other changes that they have, make the infantry game a little bit different. Infantry mech bike interaction is more nuanced instead of just kind of global infantry spam, meaning recons are a little bit weaker, meaning tanks are a little weaker, meaning battlecopters are a little bit weaker, just in general, and so you don't get that natural sort of tank battlecopter anti-air cycle as much as you do in other games. It still happens, but it's not as much. But anyway, let's get into it. First off, let's start with the easy one. Caulder is the most broken CO that they've ever created in Advance Wars. He's S rank by far. He is absolutely stupid. There is no way to fight against him evenly or reasonably. He doesn't have a CO power, so you think, oh, that's not great, but he doesn't need one, because he starts with a 3-square field. That's, the second largest in the game. The only person with a larger field is Forsythe. He gets 5-star attack, 5-star defense. That's a 50% boost to all units in the CO zone, in addition to the regular boost from being in a CO zone, in addition to the veterancy of having a CO, and all units repair up to 5 HP at the start of every turn. Granted, he does have to pay to repair his units, but as soon as he starts on a roll with his CO, there is no fighting that brick. There's only 1 or 2 maps where he actually appears as a CO, the very final map of the story, and then one of the 4-player maps in one of the bonus maps, and you can just watch him go absolutely insane. Even just in a recon or a tank, he becomes unstoppable because he just collects a bigger and bigger death ball of units around him, and you just can't slow his roll unless he makes a horrible mistake and, sends his CO out in the middle of nowhere. And even if he does, oh well, not like he really cares. He's just gonna put his CO back in any of his other units and bring it right to the front. He's an incredibly stupidly overpowered CO, and the game actually prevented players from using him in Wi-Fi battles. So when the game is banning their own CO, you know that something's up. With that out of the way, let's go to... Let's put the ones that I think are easier to rate first, and then we can go down the line. Isabella is an A-rank CO. She only gives 1-star attack, 1-star defense, so it's a 10% boost. And her CO zone is 2 squares, which is reasonable, but not huge. But what really puts her up in A-rank is that her CO power, basically it's like 2 or 3 CO powers in one for this game, because a lot of the CO powers are not as strong or as frankly broken as CO powers are in other games. Isabella's CO power gives mobility and range to all units, +2 mobility, +2 range to all units, and I believe a power increase as well. It's frankly insane just how good this is, because it allows all your units to move farther, it gives them all a power boost, it allows all of your rockets and anti-tanks and artillery and everything to shoot farther. Whenever Isabella pops the CO power, it is a massive swing turn, and that's a level of power that few other COs in this game can really boast about. So she's easily an A tier CO, one of the best, if not the best, in the game outside of Caulder. The only downside that she has is that her CO zone boost is fairly small, so other COs can bully her out of position, but the more fights she's able to take and survive, the easier it is to get that CO power. Another CO... who else is easy to place? I think Gage is a B rank. So, and again, 2 squares. He gets 2-star attack and 1-star defense, but only to indirect and naval units, so already not the best start. And then his power is long shot. It increases range by 2 squares. So you might think, oh, he's kind of like Grit. Well, the thing that makes Grit good isn't just his power, it's the fact that all of his units get passively extra range, or at least extra damage globally. And even with Gage in an artillery or a rocket, he only affects the rockets or artillery directly around him, and so unless you're forming a line, you're not going to affect all of your ranged units. A lot of times what you want to do is have your ranged units hiding out in forests or cities, and kind of spread them across into key areas. Well, you're only going to boost 1, maybe 2, if that's what you're doing as Gage, so already not that great. I'm debating whether to put him back down to C tier, but I honestly think that because he still has a reasonable usage and his power is pretty good, he deserves to at least be playable here in B tier. Who else? I think Lynn is an A tier. Not quite as good as Isabella because her power is, frankly, it's good on Fog of War maps, but it's completely useless outside of that. It increases vision by 2 squares and allows you to see into hiding places. It can be really useful in the right circumstances, but it's not globally as powerful as something like, you know, increased mobility and range. But what she does have over Isabella is that she gives +2 attack and +2 defense, 2 stars, so 20% increase to all ground units. She doesn't affect air units, doesn't affect naval units, but it is a more powerful boost. Granted, that also comes at the cost of being a 1 square CO zone, and so it's just her unit and the units directly adjacent. So she's a little harder to use, but definitely boosting all ground units is not bad, never a bad thing to have, and so she makes it into A tier just because the power of her boost is fairly significant. A CO that I really hate to rank this lowly, but kind of has to be ranked, is Tasha. So I love Tasha. Tasha feels great to use. 4-star attack, 2-star defense to all air units with a power that gives +2 movement range. It's, what is it, Lightning Drive, I think? Eagle's Advance Wars 2 small power, but the good thing is Tasha has a 40% attack boost and 20% defense boost. So this doesn't affect much for battlecopters, because battlecopters still operate pretty similarly. They can't do anything to anti-air, they get shot down really easily by anti-air and missiles, and 20% defense boost ain't doing squat to that. But where it really comes into play is bombers, because within that zone, Tasha bombers one-shot defending anti-air unless they're on like an HQ. I think they even, if they're veteran at least, like the Tasha bomber herself will one-shot it anti-air, I'm pretty sure most of the time, even on cities and forests and factories, which is insane. The ability to just kind of sweep in and do that is great. The only problem is that's in bombers, and that's if you have like a field of bombers. And that's only going to happen if you're already winning the game anyway, or if it's such a big map that you don't really have any other things going on. So if it's a big map with a lot of airports, I think Tasha's great. If it's a smaller map, she really suffers because she really needs to be in a bomber, or I guess maybe a fighter, to get that to work. I think a Tasha fighter can one-shot other fighters, but it probably depends on level. I haven't really done too much testing on that, so, you know, figure that out, but not great. And then dusters, why would you use a duster unless you're just going around sniping off battle copters and T-copters? But why would you put Tasha in a duster? If you're getting a duster, you might as well just save up a little bit more money and get a bomber or a fighter to put her in. Waylon. So here's the thing. People put Tasha as like C tier and then Waylon as B tier. And I guess I can see that. Because Tasha only really comes around as useful in those late game situations, whereas Waylon, he gets 2 attack and 3 defense, a 30% defense boost and 20% attack boost for all area units in a 2-square zone, and his CO power, I don't know how much it boosts, but because I can't find any information on it, but it massively boosts the defense for all area units. If you take a look in the one map that I played where I play as Waylon, I didn't know how to go through, I didn't know how to play, I didn't know how to beat it because the enemy just lined up so many anti-air around their HQs I couldn't cross the rivers. But then I popped his power and realized, oh hey, my air units are like taking maybe 10%, 20% damage from a full HP anti-air. It's actually insane just how much that defense goes, because it's 30% for his CO zone, another I think 10%, well 30% for him as a CO, I think another 10% for being in the CO zone because of the power, and then I think it's another like 40% from the defense boost, and so it's like 80 or 90% defense in total, which would allow even things like transport copters and battle copters to just not die. And that's why Waylon is better, because his battle copters are actually meaningful and decent units compared to Tasha's, which can be good, but the smaller CO zone and the higher focus on attack over defense makes it hard to use. He's still not a great CO. He only boosts air units, doesn't have anything for ground units, but he's reasonable. Penny, I'm putting Penny in C rank because, well, she has a 3-square CO zone, and it gives her units immunity to weather effects, and her power changes the weather. Like, that's all it does. She doesn't have any firepower or defense increase at all. Immunity to weather, you still get Fog of War turned on when you're in the rain. So what, you're not slowed down by the snow. I think there's like a sandstorm weather that doesn't actually exist in the campaign, but I think you can randomly get sandstorm, which damages all units, so units in her CO zone are safe. Snow, she won't get slowed down in, and then rain, she won't take extra movement cost in. Yeah, that's not great. Now, granted, being able to change that weather can screw up the enemy, but it can also, you can't control what weather you change into, and so it's kind of problematic. I think the only thing keeping her from being absolute bottom tier is the fact that, you know, she still has a 3-square CO zone, it still gives a slight boost, and it does affect all units. So, you know, there is that. I'm going to put Forsythe in B tier because even though he has no power and he only gives a small bonus, he has a 5-square zone to start with, which quickly boosts into a 7-square zone. He affects basically the entire field where the big action is happening. He can pop into any unit, really, doesn't matter, and then all the units around him get a massive, well, not a massive boost, get a small boost, but it's a massive area, meaning even if you're fighting against an opposing CO, for the most part, they're going to be stronger, but you're going to be able to win where the opposing CO isn't. And that's the strategy with Forsythe. He's good at kind of just going wide across the field. I imagine that Forsythe with a lot of infantry could be a really hard to stop capture game. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with Forsythe with a field that big, and, you know, without any CO power, doesn't matter if you get killed, you just pop him back in another unit and bring him to the front. Don't even need to get too far to the front because he's already there with that big of a CO zone. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Tabitha, who, despite incredible power, 50% attack and defense to any unit, she has a 0 square CO zone. The reason why she's C tier and not B tier, which, if this didn't happen, I think she would be B tier, is that because she's 0 square, her counterattacks don't charge her CO zone, so it only gives her charge when her CO unit directly attacks, until you get like 5 or 6 attacks in to charge up to 1 square, where you then get your counterattacks and all adjacent attacks, all adjacent units attacking. That 0 square is so detrimental that it doesn't matter that she has a 50% boost to attack and defense. If she takes 1 or 2 indirect attacks, she's basically like just a regular unit. And her power is basically Sturm's Meteor Strike. It's 8 HP damage and 13 tile AoE. It auto-targets for the most damage. It's a great power, but because she has such a small CO zone, it's going to take so long to charge that power that it's pretty much never going to happen. If you do somehow manage to charge the power and use it, it also gives all your units that 50% attack and defense boost. And so basically you pop the power and you win that turn. Because if you don't win that turn, then you're back down to a 0 square CO zone and you have nothing. So Tabitha, if you can get her going, if you can play really smartly, if you can defend her to charge her up, she can become unstoppable. The problem being, your opponent has to just not have any sort of idea how to fight against her, has to like basically refuse to attack her and try to run away while she chases him down, and then not even run her into a trap with like indirect units, just like not do anything. If your opponent is brain dead, she's, you know, almost as powerful as Caulder, but your opponent's not going to be brain dead, your opponent's going to be actually doing stuff. And the fact that she doesn't charge on her counterattacks until she gets that first tier of charge is why she basically cannot get going. Okay, other COs that can't get it going. Greyfield. It's 1-star attack, 4-star defense. That's a lot of defense. It only affects naval units, copters, and seaplanes, so at the very least you have battle copters with Greyfield that are really good, and if you're playing a sea map, his cruisers, like a cruiser with Greyfield in it, is impossible to destroy. A lot of people don't like playing on naval maps. Navies are expensive and weird to balance, and I think Days of Ruin naval units are so much better than any other Advanced War naval units. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're good. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have use in most maps. If you have a port and like a small area for a navy, you know, why are you building cruisers? But if you have a majority naval base, then if in a majority sea map and you have a lot of ports, then navies will dominate the entire game. It's a weird niche thing. I like the way that navies work in Days of Ruin compared to other Advance Wars games, but it's swingy back and forth. If you're on a very naval-focused map, I think Greyfield is easily like high B tier. But if you're not on a map where navy is important, then it's really hard to actually get him to use, and he's like kind of bottoms out C tier. He can still put up some pretty interesting results in a battlecopter. His power is not that great. It refills materials, ammo, and fuel. It is the only way to get things like rigs and carriers extra materials to build extra things with. But, I mean, you can also just build more units anyway, so, you know, pretty good, but not usually worth it, I guess. Brenner, the A or B tier? One sec. It's a 3 square zone, it's +2 defense, it affects all units, and he heals 3 HP to all units for his power. Kind of like Andy, I guess, a little bit in that way, but he has an actual defense boost instead of no boost. I think 2-star defense to all units within 3 squares can be underrated. The way defense works in Advanced Wars means that it becomes a lot harder to kill your units. I honestly think that putting Brenner just in a fairly weak unit like a recon or a bike could be a good strategy early on, or even just a basic tank. And then if you manage to keep him alive and you use him as a battle flag, and then you pop his power to heal all your units, and suddenly you're back swinging in, back swinging in the game. I think he's a reasonable CO. I think that he's definitely same tier as Lynn. The only question, I guess, is would I put Isabella like a whole tier higher? And I'm not sure I necessarily would, because, I don't know, hard to say. Some people would, some people don't. I think they're all pretty good. And then last but not least, the CO that you get by far the most play with in the campaign, and he's just fairly solid. It's a +2 attack to ground units, only to direct attack ground units. His power increases the mobility for all direct attack ground units by 2. That includes infantry. Will is A tier. The majority of your units are going to love that 20% attack boost. It's 2 squares, and then his power, boosting their mobility, can be really good for pop it for a quick capture or a faster reinforce, or really just a lot of things. There's a lot of use for that type of power. And so I think he's weaker than Isabella because, he only boosts direct attack ground units, and his power is just a weaker version of her power, and it charges at the same rate because they have the same CO zone. But I still think that he is a pretty good CO. So yeah, there you have it. Would I move anyone around? Yeah, I actually think Tasha is better. I kind of think that Greyfield's better too, but that also depends, like I said, if he's on a naval map. If you don't have a navy, then, why are you playing Greyfield, I guess, is the question. I'm going to assume that you have a reasonable balance map, which is hard to do, because like I said, navy will either be you'll never use it, or you'll focus on it entirely. It's up to you. That's kind of where I would put the COs. I love playing as Tabitha, but I don't think she's good. I love playing as Tasha. I think she's mediocre. I think she gets underrated by a lot of people, but then again, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I've never actually played multiplayer. If I actually played a lot of multiplayer, this could change, but because I've never had the opportunity to, and Advanced Wars by Web doesn't play with Days of Ruin rules, I guess I'm just stuck. So if anyone has any thoughts on this, feel free to comment down below. If you played a lot of Advanced Wars multiplayer and you have a lot of stories to tell, share those stories in the comments down below. I would love to hear that. As well as if you know where to play Advanced Wars online, where to play multiplayer. I'd love to hear that. Anyway, feel free to flame me for my horrible tier list in the comments down below, and until then, I'll see you next time. This is Mithril Zenith signing out.